Have you ever felt like your faith is just too small? Like you want to believe, but you're tired. You're overwhelmed. And some days, you're not even sure if God is still listening. If that's where you are, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not disqualified, because Jesus never said you need great faith to move mountains. He said you just need faith the size of a mustard seed. That's it. Something tiny, something fragile. But if it's real, if it's still alive, it's enough to shift the ground beneath you. Let me ask you this. If God says a mustard seed is enough, then why do you still believe your faith isn't? Maybe your heart feels broken. Maybe you've lost more than you've kept. Maybe you're barely holding on. But if you still have that one small seed left, you're not done. You're not out. You're right where faith begins. Because the seed doesn't need to be big, it just needs to be planted. And in this video, we're going to break down the deep truth behind that mustard seed. Why even a small, struggling faith can carry you further than you ever imagined. Let's begin. When God uses the smallest things. There was a woman once, alone in her room, sitting at the edge of her bed, eyes full of tears, and hands too tired to lift. She didn't have the strength to pray out loud. She couldn't even form a complete sentence. But from the silence of her heart came a whisper. God, if you're still there, I need you. That was it. No fancy words, no bold declarations, just a whisper from a weary soul. But that night, something shifted. Not everything changed right away. But peace came. A door opened. And deep inside, she knew God heard her, because He doesn't need volume to hear you. He listens to what's real. And that's the exact point Jesus made in Matthew 17:20. The disciples had just failed to heal a boy, and they asked Jesus why. He looked at them and said, "Because you have so little faith. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." Jesus wasn't shaming them. He was shifting their perspective. It's not the size of your faith that matters. It's the source. Because when your small faith is placed in a big God, mountains don't stand a chance. Maybe right now, you feel like you've run out of faith. You can't pray the way you used to. You're not as strong as you were. You're unsure, you're exhausted, and you're barely holding on. But here's the truth. You don't need to have big faith today. You just need to give God the little that's still alive in you. And that, right there, is where we begin. Let's break down how a mustard seed of faith can still rewrite your entire story. 1. God doesn't ask for big faith. He asks for real faith. We live in a world obsessed with how much. How much strength do you have? How much discipline? How much faith? And when we feel like we don't have enough, we assume we're not worthy to be heard by God, not ready to be used, not spiritual enough to see a miracle. But that's not how faith works, because faith was never about how much you feel. It's about who you trust when you feel nothing at all. Faith isn't a feeling, it's a choice. To still believe, even when your feelings fall apart. In Mark chapter 9, there's a moment that speaks to every soul who's ever doubted. A desperate father brings his suffering son to Jesus. He wants to believe, but he's exhausted. He's tried everything. He's full of hope and hesitation. So he says something raw, something most of us are too afraid to admit. I do believe. Help my unbelief. Think about that. A man stands in front of Jesus, God in the flesh, and says, I believe, but I also don't. And Jesus still heals his son. Why? Because even when his faith was torn in half, it was still real. Real faith isn't perfect. It's not loud. It doesn't always look confident. But it's honest. And God honors honesty. He doesn't reject you for your weakness. He meets you in it. Maybe you're there right now, caught in between faith and fear. Some days you believe. Other days, you're not sure if you even remember how. But hear this, God never asked you to impress Him. He asked you to trust Him, even with the little you have. So stop waiting until you feel worthy. Just give Him what's real, because even when your faith is messy, unsure, and trembling, if it's real, God can use it. And here's what makes that kind of faith powerful. It may feel small, but it's alive. And when something is alive, it grows. Let's talk about what happens when you dare to plant your mustard seed, even when no one else sees it. 2. The mustard seed is small, but it's alive, and what's alive grows. We often look at what's visible and assume it defines what's possible. If it looks small, we think it is small. If it looks weak, we assume it has no future. But a mustard seed doesn't look impressive. It's tiny, forgettable, unremarkable, until it grows, because the seed isn't about what it looks like. It's about what's hidden inside. It's alive, and anything that's alive has the power to multiply, to break through soil, to become something that was never obvious at first glance. Faith works the same way. Jesus wasn't asking us to hold on to a seed that would stay small. He was asking us to plant it, to trust the process, to let it grow. That's what makes the story of the widow's offering so powerful. Everyone else gave from their abundance, but she gave 2 tiny coins. All she had, nothing impressive to the eye. But to Jesus, it was the greatest gift in the room. Why? Because what she gave came from life, from trust, from real faith. And it's the same with us. You might look at your spiritual life right now and think, this isn't enough. It's too small to matter. I can't see anything changing. But God doesn't look at the size of your offering. He looks at the life inside it. Don't judge your faith by its appearance. Judge it by this. Are you still planting it? Even if no one else sees it. Even if nothing looks different yet. Even if you've failed 100 times. Are you still choosing to give God the little you have? Because that is living faith. And what's living never stays small. But here's the part most people miss. That seed, it doesn't grow after everything gets better. It starts growing in the dark. Let's talk about what faith looks like before anything changes. 3. Faith doesn't wait to see, it believes before anything happens. We all want confirmation before commitment. We want to see the outcome before we say yes. We want to feel peace before we take the step. But that's not faith. That's sight. And Jesus didn't say, walk by sight. He said, walk by faith. Faith is not what shows up after everything makes sense. Faith is what moves when nothing makes sense at all. It's not the result of clarity. It's the refusal to give up while you're still in the dark. Hebrews 11:1 says it best. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Did you catch that? Faith is the evidence, not what you get after the evidence. Faith is the proof. Before anything looks like it's working, let's look at Abraham. When God told him to leave his homeland, He didn't show him a map. He didn't give him a timeline. He just said, go to the land I will show you. And Abraham went. No blueprint, no visible reward, just trust. That's the kind of faith God builds greatness from, because true faith doesn't need the destination to start the journey. So what about you? Maybe you're waiting for a sign before you act, waiting to feel strong before you speak, waiting for confirmation before you move. But the truth is, sometimes the step comes first, and the sign only follows obedience. You might not see the result yet, you might not feel anything shifting, but the very fact that you're still showing up, still choosing God, still moving forward, that's faith. That's the evidence of something deeper than sight. So if you're walking in the dark right now, if you're still moving without answers, don't think your faith is weak. It's being tested, and that's where it becomes real. But here's the thing about faith that grows in the dark. No one else can see the roots, and that's where we're going next. Because just because it's unseen doesn't mean it's not growing. Let's talk about the hidden power of buried faith. 4. No one sees the roots growing, but that's where faith takes hold. Have you ever planted something, and for days, weeks, you saw nothing? No green, no sprout, no visible growth. It's easy to assume the seed failed, that nothing's happening beneath the surface. But the truth is, some of the most important growth happens underground. And that's exactly how faith works. Faith doesn't always show itself in the open. Sometimes it's buried, deep in the dark, but still growing. When you pray and hear no answer, when you obey but see no results, when you show up and feel nothing changing, you start to wonder, did I mess up? Is God ignoring me? Maybe my faith wasn't enough. But here's what you need to hear today. Silence doesn't mean failure, and delay doesn't mean denial. Just like a seed goes through a hidden process before anything breaks through the soil, your faith is growing where no one can see. It's building roots. It's getting stronger. It's being tested and fortified in secret. And most of the time, God is not ignoring you. He's working deeper than you realize. When you think God is silent, maybe He's planting roots. Maybe He's preparing strength before He reveals fruit. Jesus talked about this in the parable of the growing seed. A man scatters seed on the ground. He goes to sleep. He wakes up. The seed sprouts and grows, though he does not know how. That's what real faith looks like. Sowing, even when you don't see anything yet. Trusting, even when you don't feel progress. Believing that God is doing His work in the dark. So don't give up just because things seem quiet. He hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't left you behind. He's just letting the roots grow deeper. So when the breakthrough comes, you'll be able to stand. And when those roots are deep, something shifts inside you. You no longer need validation. You no longer need others to understand. Because real faith doesn't perform. It perseveres. Let's talk about why the strongest believers often look like the most misunderstood ones. 5. The ones who keep faith in the dark are the ones who walk out in power. It's easy to believe when the sun is shining, when prayers are answered, when the road is clear, when everything feels like God is near. But what about when He goes quiet? When heaven feels closed and nothing makes sense? That's where true faith is revealed. Not in the celebration, but in the silence. Anyone can believe in the light, but it takes a different kind of strength to believe in the dark. And no one showed that more than Job. He lost everything: his family, his wealth, his health, his reputation. Even his own friends told him to give up. His wife said, "Curse God and die." But Job didn't. He didn't get explanations. He didn't hear divine voices. He didn't even feel God's comfort. Yet, in the middle of all that pain, he said, "Though He slay me, yet will I trust Him." That's raw. That's unshakable. That's what dominance in faith looks like. Not loud, not flashy, just unmoving. It echoes the Stoic mindset too. Endure without complaint. Trust without clarity. When life becomes chaotic, the Stoic doesn't beg for ease. He builds endurance. And the believer? He plants his feet even deeper into God's goodness, even when he can't see it yet. So what does that mean for you? It means if you're in a season of silence, you're not disqualified. You're being fortified. If your faith feels like it's walking through darkness, it's not dying. It's being proven, being sharpened. being made real. Real power isn't in what you show. It's in what you still hold when no one sees you. So don't run from the night. Let it build you. Let it form you. Because when the light returns, you won't just survive. You'll emerge with authority. But here's the secret about lasting faith. It doesn't just endure the night. It acts even when the heart still trembles. Let's talk about why faith isn't just a feeling to hold. It's a step to take. 6. Faith is not a feeling. It's a move you make. A mustard seed doesn't just sit in the soil and hope to grow. It pushes, it rises, it breaks through the ground, even when no one is watching. Because living things don't stay still. And living faith doesn't stay silent. Real faith doesn't just believe in the heart. It moves through the hands. It walks. It obeys. It steps forward. Even when your knees are shaking. Sometimes the most powerful act of faith is not a bold shout, but a quiet decision. To forgive, to try again, to pray one more time, to obey when it feels uncomfortable, to stay when walking away would be easier. There's a moment in Scripture that captures this beautifully. A paralyzed man, helpless, broken, stuck. But 4 friends believed that if they could just get him to Jesus, something could happen. So they carried him. They climbed a roof. They ripped it open. They lowered him down. And Jesus saw them. And what did he say? When Jesus saw their faith, not their feelings, not their theology, not their confidence, their faith was what they did. Faith isn't just in the prayer you whisper. It's in the steps you take right after. It's in the way you live when you don't feel strong. It's in the moments when no one sees your obedience but God. So ask yourself, what seed can you plant today? That proves your faith is alive. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be real. It just has to move. Because the power of a mustard seed isn't in its size. It's in its refusal to stay buried. And now that we've walked through what small, real, living faith looks like, it's time to bring it all together. Let's talk about why this kind of faith, even if it's all you have, is still more than enough for God to change everything. The power of the seed that stays. Let's take one final breath together and remember what we've learned. You don't need a mountain of faith. You don't need perfect prayers or flawless confidence. You just need what's real and what's still alive. 6 simple truths. 1. God doesn't ask for great faith. He asks for genuine faith. 2. A mustard seed is small, but alive. And what's alive grows. 3. Faith believes before it sees. That's what makes it real. 4. Growth often happens in silence. Don't confuse God's quiet with his absence. 5. The ones who endure the night are the ones who rise in power. 6. Faith moves. It acts. It breaks ground, one step at a time. So now the question is no longer, is your faith big enough? The question is your faith still breathing? Even if you're down to your last thread, even if you only have one prayer left, even if it feels like nothing's happening, don't walk away. Don't throw the seed away. Don't bury what God can still use. If all you have left is a mustard seed, don't let it go. Don't throw it away. Plant it, because you don't need anything more. To see the impossible begin, let it grow in the dark. Let it fight through the soil. Let it become what God always intended. And maybe, just maybe, someone you know needs to hear this too. If this video stirred something in you, if it reminded you of the seed still alive inside, then keep it alive by sharing it with someone else who's standing in the dark. Because a seed shared becomes a garden. And faith, even the size of a mustard seed, can still move the mountain.